heard that to boost ketones, you just need to fast longer or cut your carbs even more. But what if I told you that there were certain foods that can boost your ketones through the roof without having to extend your fast? They will also make fasting easier though. These aren't your typical keto foods, no bacon wrapped everything or tubs of almond flour. These are foods that work with your metabolism, not against it. And I can almost guarantee that there is one on this list that you've never heard of before. And once I tell you about it, you'll wish you knew about it sooner. So today I'm counting down my top 10 personal favorites. Foods I use to help me stay in fat burning mode, boost my ketones, and I recommend them to my clients as well. So let's get into it. I'm Kait, a nutritionist who specializes in insulin resistance, blood sugar control, and metabolic health. I've worked with hundreds of clients who want to burn fat more efficiently, stabilize their energy, and overall just feel better day to day. And that's all without doing extreme diets or overcomplicating things. We're all about simplicity around here. And yes, I have tested all of the things. Strict keto, intermittent fasting, carb cycling, even the carnivore diet. But what's made the biggest difference for both me and my clients is dialing in the right foods that actually support fat metabolism. Because it isn't just about cutting carbs. If your fat sources aren't high quality, bioavailable, and metabolically active, you can stall out fast. And that's exactly why I made this list. These are 10 foods I come back to again and again. And not because they're trendy, but because they actually work. Most of these are easy to find, a few are hidden gems, and a couple might surprise you. But let's start off with number 10, ghee. Ghee is clarified butter, meaning the milk solids have been removed. So it's lactose-free, casein-free, and 100% pure fat. Exactly what we want when we're trying to boost ketones. It's also rich in butyrate, a short-chain fatty acid that supports gut health and has been shown to reduce inflammation and improve insulin sensitivity, all of which help to keep your body in fat burning mode. Plus, it has a high smoke point, so it's amazing for cooking. It's perfect for cooking anything from eggs to steak without damaging the fat and making it inflammatory. And did I mention it tastes delicious? If you've never had it before, it has a similar consistency to coconut oil, but it kind of tastes like popcorn or like buttered popcorn, if that makes sense. It is super delicious. And like I said, 100% fat. Number 9 is cacao butter. This one had people blowing up my comments when I mentioned it last month, so I had to include it on this list. Cacao butter is the pure fat from the cacao bean. It's not cocoa powder and it's not sweet. It's rich, creamy, and super high in stearic acid, a type of saturated fat that has been shown in studies to significantly increase fat oxidation and ketone production. You can blend it in your coffee. That's my favorite way to use it. You can also just eat it on its own or use it in low-carb baking. It adds a subtle chocolate aroma without the sugar or carbs. Now, it is available in most bulk food stores. That's where I typically buy it. But you can also get it online on sites like Amazon or iHerb. So I know I had a lot of questions about where to get it in the last video. I'll link to some places in the US, in Australia, and worldwide in the description box down below. Stearic acid is the magic component here. It will boost your ketones through the roof. So if you haven't tried it yet, I highly recommend. Number 8, egg yolks. And this is something that probably everyone has in their fridge right now. Egg yolks are one of the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. They contain choline, which supports liver function and fat metabolism, and fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K, all of which help your body create and use ketones more efficiently. The yolks also provide healthy saturated and monounsaturated fat, exactly the kind of fuel you need to stay in ketosis. So don't toss the yolks, that is the gold. Coming in at number 7, we have raw cheese. So we're talking things like aged cheddar, Gouda, and even raw goat's cheese. And what makes this special, if you can get your hands on it, which sometimes can be hard depending on where you live, is that it's not pasteurized. And because of this, it retains more of the natural enzymes, MCTs, and bioavailable nutrients that support digestion and fat metabolism. And of course, it's low in carbohydrates and high in healthy protein and fat. Number 6, wild-caught salmon. Now, you might have seen this one coming because, again, salmon can send your ketones soaring. It's one of the best sources of DHA and EPA, 2 omega-3 fatty acids that help reduce inflammation, support brain health, and enhance mitochondrial function, meaning your body runs more efficiently and produces more ketones. The lower your inflammation, the better your fat metabolism. In terms of animal foods, this is one of the ones that is the most important to get wild-caught. Beef, you can get away with conventional. It's not as big a difference between conventional and 100% grass-fed. Yes, there are some additional micronutrients in there, but with salmon, there is a really, really big difference between wild caught and farmed. Farmed fish are fed absolute garbage, and this actually gets stored in their fat, and then you consume it. Number 5, macadamia nuts. These are my absolute favorite when it comes to nuts, and not just because of how they taste. They're one of the most ketogenic friendly nuts out there because they are extremely low in carbs and incredibly high in monounsaturated fat, which helps stabilize blood sugar and keep you in a fat burning state. Things like almonds and cashews, yes, they're okay, but the carbohydrates can add up pretty quickly. And on top of that, these nuts are really high in omega-6 fatty acids, which when we consume too many of them, actually cause inflammation in the body. We just spoke about omega-3s when we were talking about salmon, and omega-3s and omega-6s kind of work against each other. Omega-3s are anti-inflammatory and omega-6s are inflammatory. So ideally, you want to have a balance of them in your diet. But there are a lot of modern foods that most of us are eating a lot of on a consistent basis that are very, very high in omega-6s, and this is causing a lot of inflammation in our diet. So on their own, things like almonds and cashews, they're not a problem if that is your only source of omega-6s and if you're not eating massive, massive amounts of them. But if you want to play it safe, go with macadamia nuts. Moving on to number 4, we have grass-fed butter. We spoke about ghee towards the start of this video, and now let's focus on butter. They are essentially different sides of the same coin. As I spoke about with ghee is basically butter where the trace amounts of protein and casein are removed. So ghee is fantastic for anyone who is a little bit sensitive to dairy because the proteins that people are sensitive to are removed. So a lot of people who can't tolerate dairy well actually do okay with ghee. But grass-fed butter does have a few additional benefits that you lose when you make ghee. Grass-fed butter is rich in CLA, conjugated linoleic acid, which has been shown in some studies to help reduce body fat. And it's also rich in vitamin K2, which is crucial for heart and bone health, especially if you're upping your fat intake. And I don't need to tell you all the amazing ways you can use butter. Unlike ghee, it doesn't have as high of a smoke point because the protein is still there and that's what ends up burning. So it is good to use for cooking, but only low temperatures. If you're cooking something like scrambled eggs, great. Scrambled eggs in grass-fed butter, so delicious and so ketogenic. What a combo. But you can also use it to top your steak after it's done, to top veggies. There are so many ways. Add it to your coffee. Have you guys had bulletproof coffee before? That is a way to boost your ketones. Number 3 is fatty cuts of beef and lamb. Let's talk more about meat, specifically things like ribeye steak, lamb shoulder, and high-fat ground beef. These fatty cuts are ideal for staying in ketosis. You're getting a great mix of high-quality protein and the saturated fat your body needs to fuel ketone production. Plus, red meat is rich in carnitine, a compound that helps shuttle fat into your mitochondria, where it gets turned to energy and ketones. I always recommend focusing on fattier cuts of meat than leaner ones, and that's for several different reasons. One of them, as we're talking about today, is the increase in ketone production. But it's also really important to have fattier cuts of meat if you're insulin resistant. If you're insulin resistant and you have too much lean protein on its own, some of the protein can be converted into glucose and you can see a bump in your blood sugar. But if you have that protein with fat, then your body uses the fat from that meal for energy instead, and you won't see your blood sugar go up. Moving on to number 2, we have MCT oil. And this kind of ties in with bulletproof coffee, which I mentioned a little earlier. Now, if you've been around the low-carb keto space for a while, then you've probably heard of this one, but it really deserves the second place spot on today's list. MCT stands for medium chain triglycerides, and this is a type of fat that your body digests differently than other types of fat. It basically bypasses digestion and goes straight to your liver where it's converted into ketones. MCTs can't be stored as fat. MCTs are found naturally in certain foods like dairy, which is one of the reasons why raw dairy, grass-fed butter, ghee are so amazing. You can also find it in coconut oil as well, but MCT oil is specifically MCTs isolated. So you're basically just getting a huge ketone boost when you have even only a teaspoon of it. Now, I use MCT oil sometimes in my coffee or before workouts. When you blend coffee, MCT oil, and butter, this is known as bulletproof coffee. And one of the benefits of bulletproof coffee is a boost in ketone production. But what you need to know when it comes to MCT oil is you need to start small and build your way up. Because it is such a potent source of fat, it can cause some digestive distress if you're not used to it, and especially if you don't have a gallbladder. Now, the way fat digestion works is that we need bile to digest it, so our gallbladder is where bile is stored. If you don't have a gallbladder, your body still creates it, it just can't store it. And depending on how much fat you eat in your diet, your body adjusts to how much bile it creates. So if you're not used to eating high-fat foods and you have a tablespoon of MCT oil, yeah, that can cause some digestive distress. But if you start with a teaspoon and work your way up over time, then your body creates the necessary bile that's needed for digestion. And again, even if you don't have a gallbladder, your body will get used to and start producing more bile over time. And finally, number one, drum roll please, and this is the one that I think a lot of people haven't heard of, beef suet. And let me tell you why this food deserves the top spot on today's list. Suet is the hard, nutrient-rich fat that surrounds the kidneys in cows. It's naturally high in stearic acid, which we spoke about with cacao butter, which has been shown to dramatically increase mitochondrial fat oxidation and ketone production. Now, this one is a little bit harder to find, but let me tell you, if you eat suet, your ketones are gonna soar. So you can ask your butcher if they have it. That's probably your best bet. I've never actually seen it in a conventional grocery store or anything like that. There is actually one company that's based in Adelaide, where I live, funnily enough, and they do beef suet chunks. It's freeze-dried beef suet, so it's shelf-stable, and it is so easy to incorporate into your diet. You can just fry it up, and it sort of melts down like beef tallow, so you can cook in it, or you can just eat the chunks whole. You can also top it on ground beef or any type of meat, really. Now, don't worry, they're an Australian company, but they do ship to the US and I believe most countries. So I'll put the link in the description box down below. I do have a code to save 10%, which is Kait10. And of course, it's 100% grass-fed and finished beef that it comes from. So top quality. And I'm curious to know how many people have heard of and have tried beef suet before. Let me know in the comments down below if you have or haven't, because I think this is something that a lot of people overlook, or I guess just aren't really aware of. But the ketone producing potential of it is incredible. And again, the key component here is stearic acid, which is why cacao butter is so good, but beef suet is as well. So there you have it, my 10 favorite foods that will boost your ketone production naturally. No gimmicks, no starvation diets, no extreme fasting, just real nourishing foods that work with your metabolism, not against it. And here's the thing that I think a lot of people don't understand. Getting into ketosis doesn't have to be complicated. Yes, fasting is amazing, and if you can fast for extended periods of time, you're gonna get a lot of benefits. But if you're just easing into it, using these foods to kickstart your journey to start producing ketones, it's gonna make fasting easier. And the thing with fasting I always stress is if you're doing it intermittent fasting long-term and trying to make it sustainable, you can't feel miserable when doing it. You need to focus on ways that you can feel good when fasting in order to make it a lasting habit over time. And these foods are one way to do that. Now, if you guys are looking for a little bit more support in your journey to lose weight, reverse insulin resistance, balance your blood sugar, I highly recommend checking out my 3-day blood sugar reset. This reset includes a full sample meal plan, simple tips to lower your blood sugar fast, and direct access to me through a private Facebook group where I answer your questions and support you the whole way. I'll put the link to check it out in the description box down below. And if you use code YouTube, you can save 10%. Anyways, guys, let me know about beef suet if you've tried it before in the comments down below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.